You think you just clicked on this video, but you are actually burning the only currency you can never regain: time. Marcus told us to live as if we were already dead. He said, think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now, take what's left and live it properly. If your story ended the moment this video finished, would the final pages of your story be worth reading? Put the phone down if you must, but lend me your ear, because you need to hear what I am about to say. Marcus Aurelius is history's greatest paradox. Imagine a man possessing absolute power who never once used that power for himself. He was raised in the same era as Nero. Both rose to prominence at a young age, and both reached the pinnacle of power. But while one became history's darkest figure, the other transformed into its most luminous philosopher. The difference wasn't knowledge or luck. The difference lay in their doctrines. And for those doctrines, I have 10 rules for you. The first rule: while most leaders choose to sacrifice their people before themselves in times of crisis, Marcus Aurelius did the opposite. When the Antonine Plague was ravaging Rome, millions were dying in the streets, and the economy was collapsing. He opened the doors of the imperial palace. For 2 months, he chose to sell the thrones, the jewels, the imperial robes, the gold-plated chairs, everything. The most powerful man in the world held a public auction in the palace gardens. The message was clear: I prioritize you, not myself. I have no need for luxury while my people are hungry and suffering. This rule still applies today. The leader who takes a pay cut during a crisis, the athlete who renegotiates their contract to protect their team, every person who sacrifices their own comfort, they keep this first rule alive. Greatness is not the comfort of the seat. Greatness is standing up from that seat to stand beside the people. The second rule: the obstacle is the way. Stoics taught this for centuries, but Marcus adopted it not just as a philosophy, but as a way of life. When a path is blocked, a weak person waits and complains. A strong person carves a new path through that very obstacle. Marcus didn't say, nothing can stop you. On the contrary, he said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Someone may block your path, but they cannot stop you from being patient. They cannot stop you from forgiving. They cannot stop you from trying a different route. They cannot stop you from learning from this experience or resisting obstacles. What the Stoics mean is this: no one can take away a human's capacity to adapt, change, and transform. Therefore, there is no such thing as a dead end. There are only paths not yet seen. The third rule: you could be good today, but tomorrow is uncertain. Marcus said this clearly and brutally. You could be good today. Instead, you choose tomorrow. Starting the diet tomorrow, starting the novel tomorrow, cleaning the house tomorrow, making that phone call tomorrow. But the problem has never been tomorrow. If the problem were tomorrow, no one would procrastinate, no one would be unhappy, and everything would be perfect. Everyone knows how to do it. The problem is choosing tomorrow over today. Procrastination. This is exactly what the Stoics call the discipline of action. Character is defined not by thoughts, but by actions. You take the first step, then the second, then the third, and that is how things get done. Marcus says, no one can stop you from taking that first step. The fourth rule: anxiety does not come from the outside, it comes from within. This is perhaps the hardest one to accept, because humans always find a justification for their anxieties. Work stress, family pressure, traffic, pending meetings, unpaid bills. They are all real, all reasonable. But Marcus wrote in Meditations, in the midst of a plague where millions were dying, today I escaped anxiety. Or no, I discarded it, because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. This confession is one of the most honest lines in history. When all the noise fades and all justifications are gone, if that tension still remains within, then we realize the truth. The enemy is not outside, it is inside, and this confrontation is the beginning of everything. The fifth rule: the morning determines the fate of the day. Marcus didn't have to get up early. He was the most powerful man in the world and could have stayed in bed all day if he wanted. But he constantly asked himself, is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm? He answered with his actions. He got up and wrote in his journal. Those notes we know today as meditations are the morning thoughts of the world's most powerful man, then moved on to the most important task of the day. Concentrate every minute like a Roman, he said, as if it were the last thing you were doing in your life. A day cannot be left to chance. A day is designed, built, and owned. A morning routine is not a luxury, it is a doctrine. The sixth rule: be strict with yourself and tolerant of others. This philosophy is learned not to rule others, but to conquer oneself. Marcus says, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. There is a reason the prefix self is in self-discipline. This discipline belongs only to its owner. This wisdom is not used to judge the mistakes, lifestyles, or choices of others. The moment it is used that way, wisdom turns into arrogance. A person learning Stoicism does so not to control others, but to become a better master of themselves. The seventh rule: people are an obstacle, but they are also the path. Marcus begins meditations by writing about how unbearable and ungrateful people can be. The most powerful man in the world is complaining about people, but he immediately adds, this is why this philosophy is valuable. Because staying patient in an impatient world, staying just in a world full of injustice, being good in an environment full of bad people, these things are meaningless in an empty room. People make things difficult, and that is exactly why this difficulty is an opportunity for others. Every moment they make it hard, they open a new field for the practice of virtue. One does not run from these difficulties, one uses them to become stronger. The eighth rule: ask one single question for everything. Is this necessary? Marcus asked this for every action, every word, and every thought, and the answer is often no. Because the vast majority of what people do is shaped by the wishes of others, the result of habits, or the pattern of, it's always been done this way. So, what remains when the unnecessary is removed from life? Perhaps something fewer in number, but essentially a much more unshakable and powerful reality. Marcus defined this as a double win. You both let go of the unnecessary and do what remains much better. Simplicity is not poverty, it is a power, a virtue. The ninth rule: Amor, Fati. Do not resist what happens, build something from it. Fate has chosen, and resistance is irrational. Marcus says, a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. That is what strong people do. They don't question why something happened because it has already happened. Wondering if it could be changed is meaningless. Therefore, they directly ask the question, what can I make of this? This is not submission. It is using one's will to the fullest. Because the power to change the world is limited, but the power to adapt oneself to events is limitless. The 10th rule, and perhaps the darkest one, is this: the crowd is usually on the wrong path. Marcus never chose what was popular, he chose what was right. This difference seems small, but it determines an entire life. The path approved by the crowd leads to comfort and instant gratification, but doctrines reject comfort, because history remembers not those who were approved, but those who chose the truth. If the notes of a philosopher who lived 2,000 years ago are still valued today, it is not by chance. It is the truth defying time. These 10 rules are not advice, they are a doctrine. The Roman Empire fell, its army disbanded, its cities were destroyed, and their names were erased. But the notes a man wrote to himself still stand, because empires do not live, doctrines do.